We thought we needed a break. Midterms had drained us, and spring break was our excuse to escape. We found a listing for a cabin by the Mendocino coast. It had rustic charm, an ocean view, and a fire pit just steps from the cliffs. It seemed perfect. The 12th of March, 2023, is a date I'll never forget. The drive out was long, winding through endless coastal roads and patchy forests. By the time we arrived, the sun was sinking low, casting an eerie amber hue across the sky. The cabin stood alone, surrounded by gnarled trees and tall, swaying grass. Up close, the place wasn't as romantic as the photos had promised. The wood was graying, splintered in spots, and the porch sagged like it had given up standing straight years ago. But the view of the cliffs and the hush of the waves made it easy to ignore the imperfections. Funny how easy it is to ignore the signs. The first night was all about unwinding. We built a fire, cracked open beers, and let the conversation drift from classes to memories to nonsense. Eventually, the stories turned spooky. Something about the dark, about being cut off from the world with no cell service, invites that kind of talk. Jackson, always the one to stir the pot, grinned over the flames and said, "Have you guys heard of the Cliff Widow?" He told us about a woman from the 1940s who had lived in the area. Her fiancé had been sent off to war, and every evening she would stand by the cliffs, waiting for him to return. But he never did. Some say he died overseas. Others claimed he ran off with someone else. Either way, her hope curdled into obsession. She walked those cliffs for years, even in storms, and one day, she vanished. Locals say her spirit never left, that she still lingers near the edge, watching, waiting, and sometimes luring others to join her. We laughed. Of course we did. It was just another creepy tale to pass around the fire like a bottle of cheap whiskey. But Emma didn't laugh. She was sitting closest to the trees, and the moment Jackson started talking, her whole body seemed to tense. Her eyes kept flicking toward the dark woods, like she was trying to spot something hiding just beyond the reach of the firelight. "Can we not?" she asked quietly. Her voice trembled slightly, not from the cold. "I don't like this kind of stuff." Jackson shrugged it off, but I noticed how Emma moved closer to the rest of us, setting her back to the fire as if she didn't want to face the forest anymore. I didn't press it, but something about her reaction made me uneasy. I'd known her for years. She was logical, steady, not someone who spooked easily. Later that night, when the fire burned low and the others went inside, Emma lingered outside. I thought she was just getting some air, but when I came back out to look for her, she was gone. I called her name. Once, twice, nothing. Then I saw her figure, barely more than a silhouette, standing at the cliff's edge. And for a moment, I swear she wasn't alone. I wish we had listened to her. I wish we had gone back home right then. The next morning, Emma was gone. Her bed untouched. No note, no texts, nothing. We searched the beach, the trails, even the cliffs. We assumed she had gone into town, but her car keys were still hanging on the wall. Her phone was charging on the nightstand. Jackson was the first to crack. He insisted she was messing with us. "Classic Emma," he said, but there was a tremble in his voice. "We tried the local sheriff. They said they'd come by. But by the time they got to us, they told us it might be a few hours. A storm had taken out a bridge. We were isolated. That night, things changed. I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I heard movement downstairs. I crept down, whispering Emma's name, thinking maybe, just maybe, she was back. But it wasn't her. It was Kayla, standing by the front door, her hand on the knob, her eyes wide open, but vacant, like she was sleepwalking. I called her name, and she didn't respond. I touched her shoulder, and she snapped out of it, gasping and jerking away like I'd burned her. I saw her," she said breathlessly. "Emma, on the cliffs. She was standing there, just staring, and then she jumped. We ran out with flashlights, but no one was there. Just the wind and the pounding surf below." I didn't believe her. I couldn't believe her. The next morning, Kayla wouldn't wake up. I mean that literally. She was breathing, eyes moving beneath her lids, but nothing would rouse her. No shaking, no yelling, not even Jackson dumping a whole bottle of water on her face. And her skin, it looked pale. Not in a sick way, more like the blood had left her. Like she was already halfway gone. We tried the car, ready to get her to a hospital, but the engine wouldn't turn. Dead battery, or maybe something else. At that point, nothing felt like a coincidence anymore. Then Jackson disappeared. He had gone to gather firewood. I found his flashlight lying by a tree, still on. There were no tracks, just the distant sound of the waves crashing below the cliffs. That night, I sat up with the only one left. We huddled near the fire, not speaking much. Every time the wind rustled the trees, we flinched. We kept looking at Kayla, still unmoving, barely alive. Something was happening to us, something wrong. And then, as the fire began to die, we heard it. Footsteps echoed on the porch slow, deliberate, like someone wanted us to hear. Theo stood abruptly, grabbing the fireplace poker with white-knuckled hands. I crept toward the door, every breath shallow, heart pounding against my ribs. "Who's there?" I whispered into the silence. No response, just that heavy, unnatural stillness. I opened the door slowly, bracing for anything, but there was nothing. Just the deck stretching out into the darkness, empty, silent, the woods beyond barely visible in the moonlight. I let out a shaky breath. Then I turned back, and Theo was gone. No sound, no scream, no signs of a struggle. The poker lay on the floor, still warm from his grip. He had vanished, as if he'd never been there at all. Just gone. I lost it. I locked the door, shut all the windows, and dragged Kayla's limp body into the back bedroom with me. I curled up in the corner and waited for daylight, but dawn never came. I'm not kidding. It stayed dark. My phone was dead. My watch said 9:30 a.m., but outside it was pitch black. The wind howled constantly now, like something was circling the cabin. Then Kayla sat up. Her eyes opened, fully black. Her mouth hung open too wide, and in a voice that wasn't hers, she whispered, "She's waiting for you now." I ran. Out the back, through the woods, toward the cliffs. Maybe I thought I could find help. Maybe I just wanted to escape that thing, pretending to be my friend. But when I reached the cliffside, they were all there. Emma, Jackson, Theo, Kayla, standing in a row, on the edge, eyes blank. Emma stepped forward. "You shouldn't have come here." Her voice was soft, almost kind, but it didn't belong to her. Not anymore. I stumbled backward, heart pounding. "What is this? What's happening?" She tilted her head. That same unnatural smile stretched across her face, but her lips didn't seem to move in sync, like something was puppeteering her from inside. "The ocean takes," she said. "That's what it does. And now, so do we." A gust of cold wind blew through me, carrying the thick, briny scent of the sea. I turned to run, but before I could take a step, I heard it. Footsteps behind me. Slow, deliberate, wet. Then I saw her. A woman, if you could still call her, that stood just yards away. She wore a long white dress that clung to her as if it had been soaked for decades. Her skin was pallid, almost bluish, and water streamed from her hair like she'd just emerged from the bottom of the ocean. But her feet never touched the ground. She floated just above the earth, drifting forward like a wisp of smoke, and her eyes, hollow, endless pits. I tried to scream, but my throat closed. The last thing I remember was that voice again, a whisper in my ear, no breath behind it, "Stay with us." Then, darkness. They found me 2 days later, curled up on the floor of the cabin, dehydrated, confused, and alone. There was no trace of the others. Not Emma, not Jackson, not Kayla. No photos, no belongings, not even their names in the cabin's rental records. It was like they never existed. The sheriff said I was in shock, said I'd wandered into the woods, maybe fell, maybe hallucinated from the cold and hunger. The ocean breeze, he told me, can play tricks on the mind. People lose themselves out there all the time. But I know what I saw. I remember Emma's face before it stopped being hers. I remember Jackson's jokes, Kayla's laughter, the way we all felt invincible together. Now, they're gone, and no one believes they were ever real. They say I was found alone, that there was no Emma, no Jackson, no Kayla, just me, dehydrated and broken in that old cabin. But I remember the cliff widow floating in the dark, her hollow eyes swallowing me whole. I remember the cold in Emma's voice when she said, "The ocean takes, and now, so do we." I remember the waves crashing below, relentless and hungry, like they were calling to us all along. What happened at that cabin will haunt me for the rest of my life. The sheriff said it was trauma, that my mind made it up. But I know better. They were real. They mattered. And whatever took them is still out there. I miss them more than words can ever explain. Their faces visit me in dreams, and sometimes, when I'm lying awake at night, I hear it again. The ocean, and her voice, still calling me back.